ever feel like your entire career is already defined and there are no surprises in your future? If so, this episode is just what you need to discover how a career in real estate provides the opportunity to change your future and help others. This week, we talked to George Gatt, a RISMedia Rookie of the Year finalist. George called a last-minute audible on his teaching career and turned to real estate, where he closed 12 transactions in his first year. George has some true pro tips to share with you, so you don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, brought to you by Colibri Real Estate Schools. I'm your host, Tina Lapp. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, and I'm passionate about helping individuals enter and thrive in their real estate careers.
Hey, welcome. I'm Andrew Robinson. I'm also with Colibri Real Estate, and we are excited to have you here today for this episode.
We are here today with George Gatt. George, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Yeah, definitely. So first, thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity being with you guys today. My name is George Gatt. I'm with Stephen Joseph Properties based on Long Island, New York. New Yorker my whole life. I was born originally in Astoria, Queens. Then I made that move over to Long Island, and I've been here ever since.
And we can tell by your voice that that's where you're from. I love it. So, George, what were you doing before you became a real estate agent?
So before I got into real estate, it was kind of a crazy time in my life. It was right during COVID. I was actually going through college to get my bachelor's, and I was in a student teaching program. So a little bit of a weird time with the COVID era going on, kind of coming on the way out. I did kind of have a feeling I wanted to pursue real estate towards the end of that student teaching. And once I got that graduation all set, I was really able to take the next step.
So that's cool. You were going down a different path then. And what inspired you to dive into real estate?
So really my biggest inspiration, and I didn't even know it at the time, was my upbringing. So I grew up with two best parents in the world, but they were divorced. So I got a little bit of a taste of the city life where my dad lived and worked as a superintendent. And then on Long Island, I was going through different apartments with my mom until we found our solid place to call home. So I did get a taste of what it was like on the rental side of things, and then more on the higher end with the luxury city life. The biggest impact for me was actually seeing my dad work as a superintendent. I was seeing buildings go from complete white box renovated projects to on-market, beautiful luxury apartments, and that really, really attracted me at a young age.
That I would imagine would be inspiring. So was there a specific moment, obviously your dad and some other, was there a moment that it came to you and said, real estate's going to be the path. Real estate's going to be where I'm headed.
So a little bit separate from that actual experience I had growing up, it was during my student teaching, and I loved education. It was really great to meet a lot of people and help children, but I felt a little bit limited. And what I mean by that is towards the end of my student teaching, I was given a handout which basically stated my whole career on a piece of paper, the maximum position I can get to, the most salary I'd make, and really the same kind of thing every day of my life, which as much as I loved it, I felt a little bit limited. So in that moment, I said to myself, I got the degree, I got my bachelor's, I'm able to transition, but I think I want to pursue something where I can reach a broader audience.
That totally makes sense. And it's an impactful moment, right? You're looking at your career on a piece of paper and you're like, oh, I don't
think it's for me. Yeah, exactly. That was that moment.
So then you just finished school and now you have to go to another school. How did you choose a school? Where'd you go? And how did that come about?
So being a college student, I think most people would say it was really money for me. I was trying to save money and balance my schedule between the student teaching, graduation coming up, and getting into real estate. So I chose a school that was pretty affordably priced and allowed me to kind of independently go through the course, mainly at nighttime.
So you were still in school, and so you were doing this while you're teaching, while you're in school. Wow.
It's like that last 2 weeks, they showed me that paper and I was like, you know what, I got to start working on my future now. Even though they thought that was the future, for me, yes, I did start working on it as I was ending out that student teaching.
And about how long did that take you?
The actual coursework, it took me, I grinded it, to be honest with you. I was going through it every night. It was a little bit over 2 weeks for me to really absorb the information and get through.
That's really fast. I mean,
Yeah, I did get lucky, I have to tell you. I was just before they changed the requirements. I believe I had the 30-hour requirements before they added the additional coming up.
No, totally. You did luck out.
Yeah.
Were there any challenges for you? I mean, it sounds like you got through it fast.
The biggest challenge for me was not with the course. It was kind of the uncertainty of the market and my next step. I was going through that transition, breaking the news to my family. I'm going to be pursuing real estate, kind of entrepreneurship. And the pandemic ending, there was a lot of uncertainty. So that was definitely the biggest challenge I had.
So George, that being said, because it is scary to make that change, exciting too, but scary. What were your expectations going into your first year of real estate?
So I could tell you the TV shows do not prepare you, as we know.
Right.
Originally, I thought I would just be able to kind of dress nice, show up and have an abundance of leads coming in. I'd be showing houses all day and just getting fun lunches, things along those lines. Although some of that is in the business, that's definitely not what my day-to-day was like. And I did learn that my expectations were not what they show you on, True TV and things along those lines.
Well, dressing nice is always a plus, without a doubt. So, how long was it after obtaining your license that you closed your first transaction?
So I got my first lead actually within my first week. It was a co-op over in Queens. So the closing process took about 3 to 4 months with the board there. But my first lead did come in relatively quickly within that first week.
That's exciting. Congratulations. Yes. So any memorable or maybe even funny experiences from your early days while you were still learning?
So believe it or not, that first lead is definitely very memorable for me. I'm based out of Long Island, and the call was from a family friend who has a relative as a broker. So they wanted a break on the commission, and it happened to be in Queens, which is about a 30 to 40-minute ride from here. My broker said to me, listen, there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's further away. Commission's not as grand, but take this opportunity to learn and experience it. And that I did. I stuck through it. I took the drive back and forth, dealing with the boards. Not the biggest commission in the world. Again, not too important to me at the time, just trying to learn and help my client, being a young gentleman. So that was definitely the biggest memorable I had coming up, which was taking what's not the best, golden egg out there and making it as best as I can.
You mentioned your broker gave you advice on this one. Was your broker your mentor, or did you have a mentor that helped you in this first year get started?
So definitely my broker, Stephen Portelli. He's the broker owner over here at Stephen Joseph Properties, and he's just an absolute great guy. Whether it's sharing knowledge or even some personal advice, he's always there for me. And he's actually allowed me to kind of shadow him some of his transactions, some of his deals, which is something I hear not too many brokers provide for their agents. You hear over and over those kind of horror stories of an agent joining a company and then they're kind of just pushed off. Here, Steve gives me all the advice I need in the world and really, really has been a true pushing forward for my success.
That's great. It's super helpful to have somebody who's really in your court and helping you, because it's hard to get started. There's a lot of unknown, and you come out of school and you know some stuff, but you don't know everything.
Always learning.
What were your biggest challenges getting started in your first year?
So besides the typical things agents, deal with as they first get into the business, my number one challenge was my age by far. I was 23 at the time, college graduate, not too much experience in real estate. And I kept getting over and over the objection of your age. Not only just you're a young kid, but you don't have too much experience in real estate. How could you even know how to navigate a deal? So what I chose to do to how to overcome that is just strictly with knowledge and competence. I dedicate myself to my business and my craft. And when you show a client you have that knowledge and you took the time to educate yourself, that age objection kind of goes to the side where they realize, you know what, we're in good hands with him.
Oh, good. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's great. You need to position yourself. Did you use particular marketing channels or techniques that were especially advantageous or effective for you?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing with my age that I did pitch to some of my clients as well is I combine traditional and more modern marketing methods. So by far, you have to be on social media. I'm doing a lot of social media, whether it's informative reels or just kind of posts about my market activity, keep people on top of mind. And then I do a lot of traditional techniques as well. So I'm hitting out the door knockers, knocking on the door, leaving a hanger if they don't answer. I'm doing mailers. I'm doing for sale by owner calls, things all along those lines.
And did you do some things in particular to overcome the age concern that you were young to establish credibility in some way?
Yes, so it was definitely showcasing my ability to market properties digitally. I was showing consumers the difference between a kind of traditional marketing sense versus a more innovative approach. And that actual results, when people can see it on paper, led them to get more comfortable with my age and actually open to working with a younger agent because of the high energy I can bring to the table, the innovative approach, and I make myself available 24/7. A lot of the older agents in my market, they turn their phones off on the weekends or after an open house. I'm available 24/7 for my clients, and I'm always ready to work for them.
That's great, because I was going to ask, outside of marketing, what are some of the things that you did to achieve success? And it sounds like always being available. Are there other things that you did or positioned yourself differently to achieve success so quickly?
Yeah, so two different things. The first is I treat every client authentically. I don't like to push people either way towards a property. My approach is, my job is to find you a home, not to sell you a property. There's thousands of agents that could sell you a property. I want to sit with you, actually find out your why. That's the biggest thing I like to do with my clients, and then position you where you need to go from there. So definitely being authentic. My clients recognize that immediately. They can sense when you're kind of just trying to sell for a quick commission. And being that I was authentic up front, it did turn into a lot of referrals early on into my career.
Did you target any particular audience or market niche?
So that's very interesting. One of the big pieces of advice my broker gave me, and I'm very thankful he did early on, again, without his guidance, I wouldn't be here, but it was not to actually niche down into one market, but to allow myself to be accessible for all different types of clients. Being that I didn't have complete market knowledge in one area, or I didn't have 10 sales under one town, he did advise me to, of course, always be knowledgeable and be truthful about what you know and what you don't know, but don't limit to yourself to just one part of real estate. There's so many different ways to help clients in real estate.
So true. So much out there. So you would get in touch with a new potential client. How'd you build the relationship?
So really just slowly, and again, that word I like to use, authentically. I like to put people on their own timeline. Sometimes you work a little too fast on a client. They're just not ready to make that move. But if you nurture them over some time, give them some good information, they'll actually bring to you when they're ready to make that move and when they want to work with you, rather than you trying to jump on top of them and force them into a situation.
That's a great approach. I'm curious, you said you've been very broad and open to everyone. Have you started to see consistency in like locations where you're getting more customers, or are you still really wide?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of the actual transaction, still wide on that. Currently, I have a commercial listing, a nice warehouse. It's actually $3 million over in Garden City. And then I have a smaller co-op that's only about $200,000 in Bayside. So I still keep my transaction wide, but the actual locations of everything has centralized to mainly Nassau County, Queens area of Long Island.
Oh, I was wondering, just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So you build these relationships. Do you have any interesting client interactions or stories from your time in real estate that you'd like to share?
Yeah, definitely. So I've met a lot of unique people, a lot of good individuals, but the story that sticks out to me the most was actually from my first open house. Again, back to that first transaction, was that smaller co-op over in Bayside, Little Neck area. And I had an older gentleman come in. He was disgruntled, to say the least. And after talking with him for about 15 minutes, he tells me, I've been trying to downsize for over a year. I've been working with an agent for 40 years. She's abandoned me, and he's felt hopeless. That client, I've actually worked with him for about 6 to 7 months. He was told he'll never get approved for a board. He'll never have the financing. And I did get him approved in the exact development he wanted, the exact floor, almost the unit that was originally listed 2 years ago. He's actually next door. And that feeling was amazing. It beats the biggest commission in the world. The better feeling than that is having somebody say, thank you, you helped me. You did what others told me was impossible. So that definitely, I remind myself of that every day. It's never about commission. It's about actually helping and making an impact. I think the money typically follows if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, we hear that time and again on here. I love the passion you have for your customers and for helping
Thank
them
you.
out. That's a really good story. You've had success, right? Like Rookie of the Year. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So 5 years, I definitely want to keep helping people reach their real estate goals in terms of agency and brokerage, but I'd also like them to get to flipping and developing houses. A big issue in my local community in all different markets is actually inventory at the moment. So I'd like to solve that problem proactively and bring affordable, quality housing to the market at all different price points.
So in 5 years, you are a real estate investor, and now there's affordable housing in your market.
That's the goal. That's the
awesome.
goal.
No, lofty, and I'm sure you're going to go get after it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You've had success, right? Or you wouldn't be here. Do you have any tips or tricks that you'd share for aspiring real estate agents or people who are just getting started?
Yeah, so the first thing I'd say is to be patiently aggressive, and it kind of sounds like a double negative there, but what I mean by that is you have to every single day hit the ground running, be aggressive, but you also have to have the patience to know certain things take time. Like I mentioned, some of the clients aren't ready today, but if you make that connection and you stay on top of them 2-3 months down the line, you could see something come from it. So be patiently aggressive.
Do you do work every day? Is that also part of your
Yep.
your model?
So again, to get to where I want to be in the industry, it does take a 7-day work week at the moment, which I love. I'm blessed to be in this position, but I do work 7 days a week, all types of hours. Some days I'm up early in the morning, other days it's 11 o'clock and I'm doing a CMA before my listing appointment tomorrow. So it's really about putting the work in and loving what you do.
I appreciate it. That's good advice.
Definitely.
So, George, we're going to jump into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a question, provide your immediate thoughts, 60 seconds or less, some of it personal, just about George, some of it, about real estate if you'd like. I guess my first question for you is, how many new friends did you make your first year in real estate?
So the network has grown and my sphere of influence has definitely grown over the first year. Now I have lenders, attorneys, everybody are friends now. And the funniest thing about it is the age group of my friends have increased significantly. So that is definitely the biggest friend group change.
Yeah, that's great. I could just tell. I knew that was great. Is there a book you've read or maybe even a podcast you've listened to that you'd recommend for the audience?
Yeah, so I definitely recommend anything educational online for real estate podcast wise, but a book that I think can serve good purpose, any industry you're in, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I really like the principles it speaks, and simply put, your mind believes the words you speak and think. So I like to think a positive mindset every day, and the results tend to follow as well.
Very cool. I got chills on that one a little bit. That's great. If you had a time machine and you could go back to the day you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself, or what might you do differently?
Oh, that's a good question. Differently wise, I would keep everything the same because I am fully dedicated to my craft at this point. Advice I give, I would piggyback off that answer of being aggressively patient. I think it's very important, especially as you start off, to have clear goals in mind, but to not jump the ship and get in front of yourself. So you want to have a clear path for your future, but at the same time, enjoy the process every day. Be thankful to be in the industry you're in, and just enjoy the ride.
Your energy is contagious.
Thank you.
Yes. So if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Another great question. To be honest, it would be my nanu, my grandfather, who passed away in 2020. He immigrated to this country from Malta to provide a better life for not even my dad at the time, he wasn't born, but his future family. He started an auto body business, and he also became an insurance agent, so a little bit of the sales there. He passed away in 2020 before I graduated and before I started my business, so he didn't get to see what I'm building, and I would love to just have a small dinner at a cafe in Astoria and tell him everything I have going on.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure he's watching and very, very proud.
Thank you.
George, what'd you do at work yesterday?
Yesterday was a crazy day. It was a mix of holiday marketing, so prepping all my holiday cards. I door knocked the neighborhood, local fire departments, thing along those lines. And then I showed that warehouse I mentioned in the evening.
You talked about getting your first lead pretty quickly. And you built into success. I was wondering if you could kind of talk about how you grew into the success. So what are the things you did to find your customers? What did that look like?
Gotcha. Yeah, so I definitely, after that first lead, the biggest thing I did was market that lead. So I did door knocking just to let people know, hey, we got a new listing coming to the market. I've also did the open houses for it, and then digital marketing as well. So I found a lot of my business is coming from outreaching from my listings on market. They see it's listed, so I'm already familiar. And then by the time they get a letter from me or they reach, I door knock them, they already seen my face or they've seen some of the business I've done. I'm going to kind of give away a secret that's worked for me. And I've got a tremendous amount of listings just off this one thing. And it is handwritten letters. So I don't recommend people doing postcards. Take the time, handwrite the letter out to the homeowner, and you'll see how much better the response is compared to just a traditional postcard campaign.
No, those are both great tips. I mean, they've seen you because they've seen your listing, and
Yep.
then you hit them with the marketing, and it's like, oh, George, like I remember George.
Exactly. And it's becoming familiar with your community. Once you have 2 to 3 listings in the same area, for example, over here in Seaford, I've done a few listings there sold. You start to get to know who's going to get ready to sell, who's coming through the door. They have family that wants to come to the neighborhood. So it's really just allowing the momentum to keep building, which is why I tell everybody, if you love it, work 7 days a week. It is worth the initial sacrifice to build yourself up.
That's great. And if listeners want to follow you and follow your journey, where can they connect with you or follow you?
Great. So the best place to connect with me is actually Instagram. It's at georgegatt.re or my website, www.georgegatt.realtor.com.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
This has been a really exciting interview with you, and you definitely have passion. I can tell you're really in there, and you're building success for yourself. And I'm excited that we can share this opportunity with other aspiring real estate agents.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity and all you do for our industry as well, educationally.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to UnlockingRealEstate@ColibriRealEstate.com.